tuned in. On 3FM Drive 92.7.
3FM 92.7.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from news about Desawe Kanda. Also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. This evening here on Hot Edition, we'll tell you the directive from the presidency to all appointees to desist from accepting what has been described by the presidency as questionable awards. Executive Secretary to the President, Dr. Callistus Mahama, has issued a statement to that effect. We'll tell you some reactions to it. A governance expert will be joining us on this issue that has got a lot of you talking. We'll get into these matters and more this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. I am Alfred Okonse. Let's head off for a summary of the news now. Grace Anwa Ajiman is here.
Alfred, let's begin with the issues of transport because the Deputy Managing Director for Operations and Technical Services at Metro Mass Transit, Haruna Apalredu, has clarified that the 100 newly imported buses recently received by the company are intended for intercity operations and not for intra-city transport services in Accra and major urban centers. On June 8, Mr. Apalredu explained that public misunderstanding had arisen over the purpose of the buses, with many commuters expecting them to immediately ease congestion and long queues on urban routes. Away from that, hundreds of patients have been left stranded at the outpatient department of the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi as doctors and nurses refuse to attend to new cases in protest over the suspension of the hospital's chief executive officer. The situation has triggered widespread disruption at one of Ghana's largest referral health facilities, with patients and relatives struggling to access medical care. And the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, in collaboration with officials of the Ghana National Fire Service and the Kode-Klote Municipal Assembly, has demolished a multi-story building in Osu in the Greater Accra region after it was declared structurally unsafe following a partial collapse. Evacuators were deployed to the site. Excavators were deployed to the site on Monday, June 8, to bring down the deteriorating structure, which had been identified as a significant safety threat to residents, pedestrians, and nearby businesses. That's it for the summaries.
Grace Amoajuman there. Hot Edition. We're live on 3FM 92.7 on YouTube, on Facebook, as well as on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's settle for the details of the news now. And as you may really be aware, there's been a directive from the presidency containing a statement signed by Executive Secretary of the President, Dr. Callistus Mahama, regarding what has been described as questionable awards that appointees of government have been directed to stay away from. We have the details of this statement, and Sixtus Don Ulo Esquire is joining me in the studio with some details as we have it now. What do we know, Sixtus?
Yes, as you rightly mentioned, Alfred, this statement was issued today, and it describes as concerning the increasing trend of ministers of state, chief executive officers of state institutions, and other public officials participating in and accepting awards from various private organizations purporting to recognize them as the best performing, most outstanding, or most influential public office holders. And there's a particular paragraph that we need to pay attention to. It says that in many instances, the organization conferring such awards are largely unknown to the public. Their credentials are unclear, and no transparent, objective, or verifiable criteria exist for assessing the performance of public officials. I think that's the benchmark the Jubilee House is using there. Consequently, the proliferation of such awards has the potential to undermine the integrity of public service, create misconceptions regarding government performance assessments, and expose the government to unnecessary public criticism and embarrassment. And now here comes the directive. That His Excellency therefore directs that all ministers of state, chief executive officers of state institutions, and other political appointees refrain from participating in, sponsoring, endorsing, attending, or accepting awards from such organizations unless expressly authorized by the office of the president. So it's not just about accepting it. You are not also to sponsor it. You are not even supposed to participate in the ceremony, attend the ceremony, or even endorse it, whether publicly or privately. So that is the communication. That is the strong directive that we are receiving from the presidency today.
It's a very interesting data. So stay with me, because this directive is coming just days after several government appointees, including the Greater Accra Regional Minister Lindo Klu, Emmanuel Kofi Boa, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Dr. Safote Tofe, who's the Deputy Minister for Transport, the Eastern Regional Minister Rita Akosia J. Awate, and the Minister for Finance, Dr. Kasiela Tofosun, were all honored at a private award ceremony in Accra over the weekend. And so this clearly is in response to the public backlash and criticism regarding that particular award. And this award we're talking about, which took place this weekend, was the Ghana Ministers of State Excellence Honors. That's 6 Ministers of the Year awards. That's what this awards ceremony was captured or christened to be, as the Ghana Ministers of State Excellence Awards. And that's what has prompted all of this.
Exactly.
Clearly, a number of people were asking questions about exactly what was the criteria for this award, and taking into consideration that Dr. Michael Pasa-White, the
former National Service Chief Executive.
And he's also now the CEO of the State Interest Governance Authority, SIGA. He put on his Facebook page. I'm going to read that statement that he put on his Facebook page, that he was approached by the organizers of this award, asked to pay either 50,000 cedis or 25,000 cedis for a table.
For recognition.
Absolutely.
Yes, so. And you know, he's not the only one, actually. Another member of Parliament also started even talking about this way before the event itself. The Honorable Edem Magbana, yes, also raised concerns about this a lot earlier when he saw this. He raised concerns about it, and he was asking what the relevance was, basically raising the same issues that the presidency has raised today. So Pesa-White is actually not alone in this.
We'll get into the reactions of both Dr. Pesa-White and also Edem Magbana on this matter. But joining us on the telephone, Dr. Frederick Odro is a governance expert. Doc, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening.
Now, this is, before we get into the president's or the presidency's statement on this development over the weekend, what's your own reading of the craze for awards by appointees of government whenever this matter comes up? Because this is not the first time we've seen this particular development happen.
Let me commend the presidency for bringing sanity into this issue. Sincerely, it was becoming ridiculous. that individuals will sit in the comfort of their homes, dream up schemes that could make them money, and just seek to get some publicity by saying we are honoring this category of people and that category of people. The sad thing is that they will not come out and indicate that we even take monies from some of the people who appear or are awarded, and we don't know who is behind these schemes, the criteria for selecting who is purported to be the best or not the best. And then they will fleece people, get their monies, and go ahead and come back in a year's time and repeat the whole process. I think that there are various motivations for being involved in some of these. Personal aggrandizement, even possibly going forward to get higher offices and all that. And look, in Ghana, our political season never ends. So we are always in the silly season. People will do all manner of things, project themselves as being the best. But we don't know the criteria for rating some of these, some of the people who are said to have won the award. So I think that the best way to deal with this matter has been how the presidency has dealt with it. And I, for one, am very happy this is coming up at this time. So we should put a stop to this. It's so unnecessary. It doesn't add to our governance process. It doesn't help to build teams. So people are so focused on individual performance rather than doing the collective for the government as a whole to succeed. And let's praise those who have openly come out, like Mr. Adam Agbana and Professor Pesach White, for openly shaming such activities.
But is it, we're in a country where, Doc, people are fixated on sometimes tickling themselves and laughing at the same time.
Absolutely.
And then also, you know, these awards are sometimes, not sometimes, and in most cases, used as a reference point to measure performance. So there's a CEO, a minister in office, and they would pride themselves on the number of awards they have won as a justification for the performance in office. And sometimes you'd have superiors who assess the work of these CEOs and persons in authority based on the number of awards they have won. So you'd understand the craze for these awards when you also take into consideration the fact that the people who are assessing the performance of these people who are paying for the awards are also counting the number of awards they have won. So it has to be both ways.
To start with, I'll be surprised that any person in a responsible authority over any of these awardees would actually want to look at such awards. Of course, I know people with, some people even can take newspaper ads and get their spokespersons to keep repeating some of these things. But any serious-minded assessor would not give a single point for these unnecessary awards. So yes, for the optics, and like you rightly said, they will tickle themselves and laugh. And for the optics, it will look as if perhaps they are doing something. But what is the reality? And then when I talk about the silly season, people are jockling for positions. People are even said to be paying so-called posters to project them to be doing very well and all that sort of thing. So it is not just because of, maybe, for instance, I mean, I don't think President Mahama could be bought by such awards and say, oh, you are my best minister because you won this award. However, they can use it as an intra-party or inter-party competition and say that I won this. And at that point, you see, you don't make logical deductions. You just flow with the word. Oh, he won this award. Oh, he won that award. But I think if President Mahama were to be assessing his ministers, he would even consider any such award or whatever anybody claims to have won from an unknown institution that only appears during such times and then disappear when we need to actually build the country. So I think, yes, it is for personal glorification, and then they can get the people who are also sometimes gullible to pay for some of these things. So I am happy the presidency is issuing this, and I believe from now onwards we're not going to be bothered by such schemes by individuals who only want to make their own money, and that we can really look at the nation building, which is the most important thing for us at this moment.
Because after this award scheme over the weekend has triggered this reaction from the presidency. Some of the ministers and CEOs who received the awards over the weekend have gone ahead to, as you indicated, buy newspaper space and advertise the award they received. Some of them have put it on their website. Some have had some code cards done to as it were, celebrate the receipt of the award. So that fits into the point you were making earlier. But if you read the statement from the presidency signed by Dr. Kalistus Mama, it's quite careful to not ban award schemes entirely. They're talking about questionable awards. So there's a certain distinction between the kind of awards that appointees can accept and the awards that they should not accept. But there are those who also hold the view that they should not even be thinking about getting any awards at all, so that even the ones that appear to be credible, so-called, should not be, the focus of these ministers or CEOs. They should not be working towards anticipation of being awarded. They should just deliver work, and that should be it.
Absolutely, but then again, we are human beings, and we all have our different motivations. And then we also have different ways of doing things. However, there must always be the acceptable way of doing things. So buying, sometimes they themselves will not come out to say they are buying the newspaper spaces and putting up on social media. They will get the people. I haven't seen any, but I wouldn't be surprised to see sponsored by friends of so and so, sponsored by this. That's also what appears as part of that, so that it looks as if the individuals involved were not the ones who did it. But then again, we are into virtually, we are not even up to half stage of President Mohammed's tenure. And there's so much to be done. And if people lose focus and give in to some of these unnecessary personal agendas, I don't think it's going to be good for the government. That is why I am happy. This is not coming from just a party line asking people not to do something, but it's coming from the president, from the presidency. So if you flout it, then the president can sanction you for that. And it also, actually puts these awards in their proper perspectives, so that we don't go about having people claiming they've done something which is so unnecessary at this stage, when there's so much to be done and when there's so much that can be achieved. So I think people should be focused and support the president to complete his tenure, to get the stage where everybody who so seeks to contest for whatever can do whatever they want to do. But at this point, President Mahama needs to consolidate his legacy. And anybody who allows some of these things to turn their attention from what needs to be done must be dealt with. And I am praying that after this directive from the presidency should go ahead to monitor the space and ensure that people will not stop at this and then wait for a little while when they think all attention has been lost, and they start doing it again. Whoever flouts the rule must be severely dealt with, so that people will see that indeed the president is serious about what he wants to achieve.
And talk about the punitive measure, maybe in a minute. Beyond this statement that has been issued, what would you expect to be done to send a strong word?
I would hope, without any equivocation, that whoever flouts this must be sacked by the president. Because all the people who come under these awards, like best minister, best CEO, best whatever, they are all appointees of the president. And if the president has said this and you flout it, the president should sack you. There should be no middle ground in this.
And I do thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So you heard him there, and these are the strong words of Dr. Frederick Kodro. He's a governance expert with his thoughts on this latest development. If you're just joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W 93.5 in Y and beyond. President John Dramani Mahama has directed all ministers of state, chief executive officers of state institutions, and other political appointees to stop accepting or participating in awards organized by private entities without prior approval from the office of the president. Now, the directive follows concerns about the growing number of award schemes that seek to recognize public officials as best performing, most outstanding, or most influential office holders, often based on criteria that is not publicly known or independently verified. A statement issued by Dr. Callistus Mahama, the Executive Secretary to the President, noted that many of these organizations have unclear credentials and that such awards risk creating false perceptions about government performance while undermining the integrity and accountability of public service. This directive comes just days after several government appointees, including the Greater Accra Regional Minister Lindo Klu, Emmanuel Amakofiboa, Lands and Natural Resources Minister Dokas Afotofe, the Deputy Minister for Transport, Eastern Regional Minister Rita Kosia J. Awate, and the Minister for Finance, Dr. Kasiela Tofosin, were all honored at a private awards ceremony in Accra. And that's what Sixtus Don Olo gave us the details of that statement from the presidency. And then you can find more of it on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com as well. Away from that, let's go straight to the Ashanti region, because doctors at the Komfo Teaching Hospital have insisted they will continue their strike action despite a meeting with the Ashanti regional minister aimed at resolving the impasse and restoring normal healthcare delivery at the facility. The strike, which has disrupted services at one of Ghana's major referral hospitals, follows the suspension of the hospital's chief executive officer by the Minister of Health, a development that triggered tension between management and sections of the medical staff there. William Evans Sinkum has been giving us details of what's happening at the Komfo Teaching Hospital since morning.
Day 3 since doctors here at the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital declared strike. Critical cases are, however, attended to. Dr. Leeds, the local president of the Doctors' Union, was on his way to the theater when the news team caught up with him. He said although they are on strike, they are attending to critical cases.
You're going to the theater, I'm going to operate, and you pass through the emergency. Cases are coming in, okay. Sometimes the public take our words out of place. We are on strike, yes. We are not taking any new cases, but we are human beings. And if emergencies come in, I think nobody turns those patients away. At least we are looking out for our interest and the interest of our patients.
Here at the triage unit, some patients were being assessed, but these were old cases. Dr. Leeds says recent statement from the Health Ministry muddied waters.
In the course of our discussion to see the next step, we saw a release from the Minister of Health, picture of the discussion. In fact, people were angry, and then we had to end the meeting. Yes, so as it stands now, we are still on strike. We are still taking steps to make sure we go back to our people, talk to them, through more discussions and then see how best we come out positively for us as doctors, for patients, and for Ghanaians in and the people of Ashanti region.
The CEO of CATS, Dr. Pakwesi Baidu, in a release issued on Monday, appealed to his colleagues to go back to work.
Sir William Evansinkom earlier today. Now, the development we're hearing from the Komfo Teaching Hospital is that the suspended chief executive officer, that's Dr. Pakwesi Baidu, has appealed to staff of the hospital to return to work following the industrial action triggered by his recent suspension. In a letter addressed to all staff members dated today, June 8, 2026, Dr. Baidu expressed gratitude to workers for their solidarity and support during what he described as a difficult period. We have a copy of that letter, which the CEO of Government Appointees Hospital wrote. He said, "I would like to express, quote, my sincere gratitude to all staff of the hospital for your show of solidarity with me during this period. I am grateful for your support." It says the appeal comes days after the Minister of Health, Kwabena Kando, directed the board of the hospital to suspend Dr. Baidu for 2 weeks. The directive followed controversy surrounding the CEO's announcement of a temporary suspension of admission for emergency cases at the facility. However, doctors and nurses in the Komfo Teaching Hospital reportedly refused to attend to new cases in protest over the suspension of the hospital's CEO. The situation has triggered widespread disruption at one of Ghana's largest referral health facilities, with patients and relatives struggling to access medical care, leaving hundreds of patients stranded at the hospital's outpatient department. In his letter, which we've cited, Dr. Baidu urged staff to place the interest of patients and the nation above ongoing tensions and return to their post while the matter is addressed by the appropriate authorities. William Evansinkom is our Northern Bureau Chief. He's been stationed at the Komfo Teaching Hospital since morning. William, thank you for connecting with us here on Hot Edition. Have the staff heeded to the appeal by the suspended CEO, whom they have gone on this strike in solidarity with?
Well, so officially there hasn't been any reaction to what the CEO had actually suggested to them. But Alfred, the reality is that practically it does appear that they are working. Because before my departure, latter part of this afternoon, from the Komfo Teaching Hospital, some cases were received. And of course, they were immediately sent to the theater after having gone through the triage unit for assessment. They were immediately taken to the theater to for the doctors to work on. I'm talking about those doctors on duty. For instance, Dr. Leeds has been working on some cases in the theater. And I remember during my interview with him early part in the morning, he said that the information out there is not entirely true, that they have abandoned all emergency cases. Well, I don't know where he got that particular information from, that they have abandoned all emergency cases, because we have been very consistent per their series of releases that they have actually aligned us as a media house, that they are only attending to critical cases, but other cases that are not critical per their grading are actually referred to other hospitals per their earlier statement issued to the public. So that is the reality. I mean, the critical cases that are coming to Komfo are being attended to. But what I also noticed today is that it looks like the wards have been eased. So, for instance, the janitors brought some of the beds outside to have them cleaned. And those are some of the things that I also saw at the Komfo Teaching Hospital today.
I see. Now, so clearly indication that there's some softening of the stance, correct, by the staff regarding the strike?
In terms of practicability, I would say that it is not biting as they painted the picture, from the doctors. They are working, to some extent, per what I saw, today. For the other, the nurses and the midwives who earlier threatened to join the strike, they haven't. They are also working. However, they still maintain that there should be some level of timelines in terms of operationalization of the Sewia and then Afari Military Hospital. There should be some level of timelines. In fact, according to Dr. Leeds, that was the line of conversation they had with the minister, and they were making some level of positive progress, or what they call fruitful progression, until that particular statement from the Ministry of Health, latter part of yesterday. He said that whilst they were having conversation after the meeting with the regional minister, they needed to also inform their members what had transpired between leadership of the doctors and then that of the regional minister or the RCC. So they had raised about 180 of their members on Zoom to have a discussion and possibly see how best they can halt this whole industrial action and what have you, only for that particular statement to also drop. And that infuriated some of the members. I am not sure whether those members infuriated are not coming to the consulting room to operate. But people like Dr. Leet and other doctors, for instance, Dr. Yami and what have you, and those are some of the leaders. They were at the ANE today to also perform their duties.
I see. Now, you monitored that meeting between the Ashanti Regional Minister, who is also a medical doctor himself, and his colleagues at the Comfort Teaching Hospital. How did that end?
Well, that meeting really went well. If you look at even the gesture of the regional minister, even though it was held closed doors, but when the regional minister came out, he was beaming, he smiled with smiles, and of course, he was confident that very soon they were going to call off the strike. That was today. But even at the latter part of his statement to the media, when he addressed the media, he said he doesn't want to, conclude or officially state that, they are calling off the strike. And that particular statement was going to come from the doctors themselves. So this morning, we were actually expecting that particular statement, only to go there and be told that, they are likely to be, they are likely to extend the industrial action because of that particular statement that came from the Ministry of Health. Alfred.
William, appreciate you for this. Thank you so much for the updates.
Thank you.
William Evans Income is our Northern Bureau Chief there, and is going to keep an eye on the happenings at the Comfort Teaching Hospital. The update that we're getting this evening is that the suspended Chief Executive Officer of the Comfort Teaching Hospital, Dr. Pa Kwesi Beidou, is appealing to the staff of the hospital to return to work following the industrial action triggered by his recent suspension. So we're keeping an eye on how things are playing out there. But away from that, here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, city authorities are expected to secure permit to demolish structures sited close to a 3-story building that collapsed on Sunday in the North Industrial Area and claimed 3 lives. Early findings show that the existing buildings are weak and posing danger to residents. The emergency response team that evacuated the rubble from the site has finally withdrawn from the site. Christian Yale was at this particular location and brought us this report.
The collapse of the 3-story building is the second of such incident in less than a week and the third in a month. Beyond the tragedy of the 3 lives lost, critical questions are being asked about why building failures persist in Ghana. Concerns about enforcement, construction practices, and the prevailing challenges in the built environment are widespread. The rubble has been cleared and the site barricaded to protect the public from potential hazards and preserve the scene for investigators. The emergency response team has left the site.
This morning we followed up at the police hospital and it's confirmed that we have lost additional victims. So that makes the death to stand at 3 with 1 survivor undergoing treatment.
Why are you withdrawing from the incident scene?
Yes, so disaster response operation has various phases. And so the last phase of our operation is the collection of debris. And as you can see, we are 100% through with the debris collection, and therefore we need to withdraw from the site.
Are you going to more or less declare this area a safety zone so that people do not continually come to this site? And also, what happens to the other buildings around and their structural integrity? Are you going to collapse them as well?
The adjacent building, as you can see, is more or less a death trap. And as the Interior Minister said, arrangement is being made for such a building to be collapsed before we experience any fatalities.
Engineers have attributed the incident to a possible lack of building permit and failure to adhere to construction standards.
From what we are hearing, it looks like the assembly have not given out any permit. We are yet to confirm that fully, but the building have no permit, which means that if a building have no permit, it means that there are no plan works signed by an architect or a built environment specialist or an engineer for the construction to go on. This can be prevented if we see there are laws, there are legal procedures that we need to go through before we build buildings, especially a commercial nature like this, where a lot of people will be frequenting. To put it in a simple language, concretes have different strengths, different mixes and different money. Rebars have different strengths, materials have different strengths and different requirements. If you don't follow it through and do your own thing, and nature comes on us, these are some of the things we'll be experiencing in our country.
Christian Yale there. Meanwhile, a joint technical investigative committee has released preliminary findings into last week's building collapse at Medina, concluding that the tragedy was caused by a combination of regulatory violations, serious structural defect, and unsafe construction practices. Engineer Prince Kasavotri is the General Secretary of the Ghana Institution of Engineers, who spoke to my colleague Beatrice Edu earlier today at this disaster site. Let's take a listen to him, and we'll tell you what happened in Osu earlier today as well.
The whole thing that we established was that there was no permit and there had been constant stop work order on the said structure before that led to a collapse of the whole structure. And then when we get to be observed that the work being depicts a work that a professional had looked at because of how the building elements, what we call the columns, have been arranged and the quality of concrete that we saw on site.
You said that there were multiple, if I get you correctly, there were multiple stop work orders. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you find out from the assembly why, after 2 or 3 stop works, they didn't arrest the owner but allowed it to continue until this disaster?
I think this will be well placed at the doorstep of the assembly if you can get them to explain why almost all stop work orders that the issue of buildings. Enforcement, a further step to enforcement as in arrest or demolition order is not being carried out in such properties.
I know that you say this is a preliminary report, as it were, on this particular building, but are you able to tell us how perhaps what you saw is a reflection of what we're seeing? Already we've had a few other buildings collapse.
Yeah, I think the same thing that we've been saying, right from the Newtown building to the Adenta one and the Zena that we have. You all have similar and the same, almost same peculiar issues that we observe every time we go to the site. All being that regulations and legal procedures are not followed through, professionals are not being dealt with. So it's more like an individual just putting up a structure and then housing it to the public or individuals. So that's how the whole thing has all been.
What do you think?
So that's the update of the situation after the collapse of the building at Denta new site, and there was a demolition of a structure in Osu here in Accra after concerns were raised about the structural integrity of that building. And George Queening, my colleague, witnessed the demolition of this building at Osu earlier today, and walk us through exactly what happened today and why exactly this building was pulled down in the first place.
Thanks for having me. So the Collective Municipal Assembly had actually given them eviction notices severally, but they didn't heed to those directives. And so on Sunday there was a heavy downpour, so portions of the building collapsed. So that's what compelled them to actually move out. So that is what triggered it. So once they said they'll move out, the court will have to come in. So this very exercise is actually in partnership with the landlord.
Right.
Because they're also taking part of them. Because they actually paid for the excavator.
I see. Obviously, I mean, for just those who have not seen this building we're talking about, or the uninitiated, go on our Facebook page at 3FM927 on our Facebook page. We're showing you this building that was pulled down by the authorities, you say from the Collective Municipal Assembly. And then also officials from we understand, the landlord, the owner of the building as well, who paid for this demolition of this structure. And in fact, if you see the structure...
They were supposed to move out before 14th April.
Of this year.
Yeah.
But we understand this was a 6-story and 4-story.
Yeah, and then the downward stairs.
But so were people living in this building?
They were actually living inside.
This building?
There was a part where they said there's a stairs. You can't even see the pillars in there. It just come on. I just don't understand. There was a point where they actually disconnected the lights there days after they reconnected it. So clearly they were not going to move until that trigger happened yesterday. And I'm told it's for the Luchot family.
Right.
One man I spoke to is from the Luchot family, and he says he's lived there for 40 years.
For what? 50 years?
40 years.
40 years.
Stayed there, lived there, raised all his kids there. So he didn't find it 14 living in this dilapidated structure. So clearly, people just watch on for the unexpected to happen, because clearly they were actually living on a time bomb. I wasn't about Alfred.
But we see inscriptions on this. There's been written dilapidated building.
Yeah.
All of this.
And we're still inside. So that was an inscription by Cockman.
Interesting.
More like a 7-day notice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but we understand the adjoining buildings as well had some structural issues, and so that's going to be another.
I hear, actually, when you watch it face value, the one on the left is not bad, but there was one that was next to this very one. So when they did the demolition, part of the debris went into. So they actually asked them to leave before the exercise, but they had no fault. But I'm also told the one next to it, like this one, the one next to it on the left, will be demolished. But I don't think it's because it has, or its structural integrity is questionable. It looks good outside. Unless maybe there's something that, look at this structure. It's not really bad like this one.
Yeah, and I encourage those of you who are listening to us on 3FM 92.7 to go on our Facebook page at 3FM927. We're showing you this building that was pulled down today because of its structural integrity. And the concerns that have been raised is that if this had not been done, it was just a matter of time that this building was going to come down, tumbling down indeed. And we understand this, with what you're seeing, with this level of dilapidation, we still have people living in this building. Yes,
most of the residents that I spoke to said they actually talked some of the tenants out from leaving. Some left, but when you leave, you have people coming to rent. I think because it's Osu and it's also a prime area. So you ask people, this structure is very bad. You're living on a time bomb. Some will leave, but once they go, there are people coming to rent. So clearly, I think it has to do with the location.
People renting this structure?
Yeah, they do. People are living inside.
This is serious.
People are living inside.
Okay.
They just moved out yesterday.
George, interesting indeed and quite troubling. George Quaining.
Let me just put it. So NADMO has actually put the number of buildings of this sort in the capital at 16. So this has been demolished. So it's left in 15. Tomorrow they're going to wager. 6 of them are in wager.
6 in wager.
Yeah. So
it appears that the 2 incidents of the building,
and
yes, the Aveno and Adenta one has triggered.
Yeah, exactly.
These demolitions we're seeing. And George, thank you. George Quaining, thank you so much. And this is where I bring in Zaman Kote Isaka, is a local governance and development practitioner. Mr. Kote, thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. And I'm taking into consideration what happened at the Adenta News site and the Aveno. We saw buildings tumbling down because of the structural integrity and also as a result of this rains we're having. Now there's been a deliberate decision taken by NADMO and other authorities to pull down buildings that have questionable structural integrity. 16 of them, we understand, NADMO has identified. How do you react to this latest development by NADMO to go on this path?
Well, to save life and other properties, why not? If buildings, especially story buildings, are being built like Legos in the city, they must give way, because we cannot be rushing rescue team to various properties just after they have collapsed. You see, the whole process of building, sometimes if it is more than 4-story, you need to run a soil test to determine if there is fault under the earth. So you fix the fault before you build. I don't know if we ask people to do that as we speak now. And people go to the assemblies with 2-story, but they end up building 4 stories. I don't know who they want to deceive. And the system is so weak that we have some of these things happening day and night. You know, so, well, if NADMO has been able to identify some buildings that need to be pulled down, why not? Especially when they don't have permit to even start building before they even hit that where they have left them.
But beyond pulling down these buildings, someone must be held responsible at assembly, is it not? I mean, if you have buildings without permit, and we've had some buildings in these waterways, Ramsar site, that the owners of these buildings have produced permits issued by the assembly, yet the buildings are just demolished every year, and nothing happens to those who issued those permits to these people to build in these unauthorized places. Mr. Gote.
Oh, well, I always have a problem with people showing, coming up with permit. There's one thing saying I have permit and another thing producing the permit, which has been duly issued by an assembly. Okay, I will be the last person to appreciate anyone showing permit. There's one thing, people are saying, oh yeah, I have permit. Have you seen the permit? Who has ever seen a permit from the assembly in a waterway? It will never happen.
I want to appreciate you for your time on this, and I know that we'll make some time and talk about it a bit more. Amon Kote Isaka is local governance and development practitioner, joining us with his thoughts on this. You're still live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and on W93.5 in YMBN. We're back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.
Every woman
Welcome back. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W 93.5 in Y and beyond. I am Alfred Okansi. This evening, the investigator in the illegal mining case against NPP Ashanti Regional Ashanti Regional Chairman, that's a former, also one time, well, he's seeking to lead the NPP as his chairman in its upcoming elections. Chairman Wontumi, that's Akonta Mining, has told the Accra High Court that armed men led by the former general manager of the mining firm in Akonta Mining branded vehicles accosted and held officials from the Forestry Commission hostage until seized equipment were returned to them. The investigator is the prosecution's second witness in the illegal mining case against Akonta Mining. That's Nkibosiakon himself, Chairman Wontumi, and two others. Now, Lord Edwasari sat through the proceedings in court today. He's joining us in the studio for a bit more detail in this. And Lord, it's quite interesting to know what the second prosecution witness is talking about. And he was an investigator in this illegal mining case against Chairman Wontumi. Indeed. And he's saying that armed men led by the former general manager of the firm, they held Forestry Commission officials hostage until equipment belonging to Akonta Mining were released to them?
Were released. Exactly so. So now the investigator indicated that he took over the case last year. But then once he took over, he went to the ground, they did their checks, they went to the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve to ascertain the allegations preferred against Akonta Mining, Chairman Wontumi, Erode Akwako, who is now the prosecution witness. Mind you, he was the first witness in the case. Now, the investigator indicated that, for example, one of the first things that they ascertained was that as far back as 2011 rather, Chairman Wontumi filed or applied for a mining lease to enable him mine in portions of the Tano Nimri forest. Now, even before the then lands minister could determine that application, he already went before the horse and then he started mining in the area. Now, the investigator indicated that in the Tano Nimri forest, there are 161 compartments. And out of the 161 compartments, Akonta Mining has at least 4 compartments that they are operating illegally. And part of the compartments, he alleged that you can tell heavy degradation as far as illegal mining is concerned. They have drone footage of everything that has transpired in that area. Now, I indicated that although a lead counsel for Chairman Wontumi, Andy Apiakubi, kept putting on record that Chairman Wontumi himself has never been to the Tano Nimri forest, the activities by the Akonta Mining, they are not engaged in any illegal mining because, for example, he indicates that the equipment that the investigator is alleging was owned by Akonta Mining were protective equipment. Because, mind you, in the Samra Boy case, separate matter, the former Western Regional Minister and Chairman of the Western Regional Security Council indicated that Akonta Mining had reported of illegal mining in Samra Boy area to the Western Regional Security Council. For which reason they had to go there, the task force, and make some arrests. Now, linking this to that, he indicated that, Apiakubi, I should say, indicated that for this reason, the equipment that the investigator is alleging belonged to Akonta Mining actually were equipment that were protecting the Tano Nimri forest. But on the same trajectory, he indicated that although the equipment had logos of Akonta Mining, they essentially branded Akonta Mining, it's no way suggested that they belong to Akonta Mining. And then there was a part where the investigator then said that during the whole investigation and everything, some officials of Forestry Commission went to journalists, chiefs, and then officials or staff of Samatex company. Remember that company that's also involved in that Summer Boy case as well? Yes. They went to the Tano Nimri forest to, as we're trying to get Akonta Mining to stop the illegal mining activities. So they seized a number of the equipment being used for illegal mining. Some arrests were made. They indicated that a lot of the staff had to flee and all that, but indicated that Erode Akwaku, the former manager of Akonta Mining, seized or held hostage these task force, I should say, put together by the Forestry Commission for several hours until the seized equipment were returned to them. So, Alfred, this is where we are. The case has been adjourned to 16th, but Apia Kubi has been reacting to the testimony of the investigator. Let's listen to him.
An inscription on a property does not conclusively determine who owns it. So this is what we did, and he confirmed that that is the case. And the question that was rejected was that there are also police vehicles that are manned. And my lady thinks that that is not relevant to the subject matter. But again, it is established that the fact that there is an inscription on a property does not indicate anyone. And you remember that I established the platform by walking him through the equipment they make references to and the possibility of identifying ownership through registration. And he confirmed all that. So I said that based on his confirmations, is it the case that Akonta Mines owns any of the equipment they pointing to? And the answer was no. And the only connection, according to him, was that somebody is connected to Akonta Mines and the equipment, one of the equipment is connected to him. Whether in registration or whether in inscription is something that we need to establish at our next agenda date. And whether or not that person himself is connected to Akonta Mines is another matter that we need to investigate. And indeed, that person has been in the court. He has come to testify, and he has also indicated his associations devoid of Akonta, but his association with Chinese experts, and he has also indicated in court that he is a translator for Chinese interests, not for Akonta Mines. So the association is being presumed is without validation.
But general. That's Andy Apia Kobe there, is late counsel for Chairman Wontumi.
Indeed.
So when is this case expected next in court?
Well, next week, Monday, 16th, the continuation of the cross-examination of the investigator will continue by the defense lawyers, and so we wait and see some of the things that will come out of there, Alfred.
Lord Edward Sari is our legal affairs correspondent. Thank you so much. There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. On behalf of the rest of the team, here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Production led by Six to Don Ulo, Napo Ali Fuseni, Chris Samoa Jiman, and the rest of the team. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Hot Edition. We're back again tomorrow at 5 p.m. I am Alfred Okanse. Do have a great evening. Join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight.